Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show reviews. And today we're reviewing the final three episodes of Vox Machina, The Legend of Vox Machina, Season 2. It's episodes 10, 11, 12, and entitled The Kill Box, Belly of the Beast, and The Hope Devourer. So, what did we think about this? And should you be watching? And before we get into the review, get down there, hit like on this video. Well, Lottie, here we are at the end, the epic conclusion to Season 2 of The Legend of Vox Machina. And, I mean, that epic is actually probably about what we should call this, right? Like, I was wrong about the way that they were going to go about the ending of this season as far as who was the big bad. I think we were pretty much on that it wasn't going to be, the red dragon. But I didn't know that we were going to get this ending that we got. A pretty epic.
I kind of called it last episode.
Yeah,
I kind of called it last episode.
Yeah, I think you were on. I think you had a good handle on it. So it turned out to be Umbrasil, the black dragon, who they had to face. And so these three episodes really are just about getting up to fighting Umbrasil, which is. I mean, it was just epicness all around. So we're going to do like we did last week. We're going to just go episode by episode talking about that. So the first one, episode 10, was the Kill Box. And in this one where you have basically Grog challenge the leader of the herd. And now he's got to fight him, even though, he's sort of depowered and everything. And he's got the herd against him at that moment. Lottie, man, dang it, what a hell of an episode.
Oh, yeah.
Geez, I mean, look, that's what D&D is about. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the sort of, like, epic showdown where, I could see where some of the roles were, like, real, real iffy. But I could also see where, he rolled real good. And there was there was a power up and everything. I mean, it was great. I don't know what you think about it.
Man, listen, I was losing my mind. I got to the edge of my couch and I was like, oh, yeah. Especially, my favorite quote.
I love that idea because he's like he's asking permission. I would like to rate, and it was, and that's if you haven't played D&D or anything, that's pretty much would be what the player was saying. Like he's like, I would like to rage, but what he's saying at the top of his lungs.
Man, what a great episode! It's everything that I thought it would be. Grog, stranger.
Yes,
his uncle. It's everything that I thought it would be. And I mean, here's the thing. And I agree that some people, I disagree with some people. Some people are like, oh man, it's kind of messed up. I wanted it to be a one-on-one fight. I said, this is not what the show is about. And Grog gets his power not for fighting alone. He gets his power from his friends. It's about fighting with his friends. And that's part when he said, Vox Machina, let's fuck shit up.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was the whole point. Where does your strength come from? We sort of saw some of that earlier, like in earlier episodes, with his relationship with Pike. And, obviously, Vox Machina, they're not going to leave them out to hang in the wind. And so to see that, Vox Machina roll up in there and just start going ham on the herd, but also forcing, Grog, not forcing, but Grog really sort of levels up in badass, as they say.
Yeah.
And really kind of takes the fight to his uncle. There are aspects of this episode where I'm like, okay, I can see that they're at a table rolling dice. And someone's just like, I'm about to do this thing. Can I do it? And he's got somebody rolled a 18 or something for their acrobatics. So, cause that little bit where Vex scoops him up and then drops him from up high, and he just goes,
Yeah.
for the kill shot. That's absolutely a on the fly. We're gonna do
Thing.
this thing.
Yeah. She had to do probably a strength check. He probably had to do an acrobatics check, and then he probably rolled a crit.
Yeah.
He probably rolled a crit.
And but also remembering that again, this is D&D stuff. Falling
Yeah.
from a height adds, it adds certain
adds
things to you.
damage.
It adds, a modifier. Yeah. So I absolutely see some of this, but the rest of it is, they're rolling a lot of story into this. The thing is, D&D can have as much or as little story as you want, and this is a lot of background coming to fruition in a satisfying way, and also reminding you, Vox Machina ain't a joke. They're not. They're
No.
not. Now, especially with the vestiges that they have, they're not a joke. They
No.
can fuck stuff up, and they really went. And these are half giants too. Now, and people may not necessarily see that they're half giants. They're half giants. They are not a joke either. This was a real serious fight.
This was
that was damaging. And I really enjoyed just like Grog taking all those licks, and then Pike doing what she does, keeping him in the fight. So when he finally could get that killing blow, it just team stuff.
And like you said, I like how they did it in the show, in the sense of like, because we know in the background, Grog, the guy who was playing this Grog, rolled crits with cutting off his arm and then slice him in half. Those were crits.
Yeah.
But in the show, they made it seem like he can't take pain because he never had to deal with pain.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like how they did that. Like when he got critted, because you heard him scream like, "Oh!"
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, man, listen, man, that show, man, I love this episode.
Yeah.
Loved it. Then now Grog got himself the gauntlet. Like it reminded me of when we were playing D&D. Remember the adamantium gauntlet, the fist? It reminded me of that, and I was like, oh shoot! And now his you see that it turns out that the herd is actually weren't truly that bloodthirsty of people.
I mean, they aren't.
Yeah, they're warriors, but they're not like. They're being forced to do it because of the dragon and of course, Grog's uncle.
Right.
So you can see how they team up at the end with Grog, and Grog tells that his cousin will now be the leader of the herd.
Right.
Which is really
smart
cool.
move because Grog's an idiot. But
yeah,
that moves us to episode 11. Which was the belly of the beast. It's called Belly of the Beast, which meant something. It actually means something that we see later on. This episode, this is kind of a what do you call it? A breather before the big encounter, right? It ends with the big encounter, but it's kind of the breather.
We do. Let's talk about this before we go into because we did skip this. Turns out that Scanlan has a daughter.
Yeah, that's in this episode we really see that because now in this one, we saw Kaylee, I think was her name, the other gnome that was probably a bard or something, and we see her and the rest of the people that kind of stuck around, hanging out with the herd, and as they sort of celebrate, the changing of the guard and everything, and they're getting ready to plan. But there's a big. So this is a kind of a breather before the next big encounter, where we see that we find out Scanlan has a daughter, and she doesn't like him, and she lost her mom, and she wants to kind of take it out on him, and kind of leaves this, she sort of seduces him, which is there's a lot of funny related to Scanlan dealing with this, but also a lot of heart and a lot of like emotional depth too. Because we've been saying that Scanlan's not just, he's not just a man whore. There's more to him than that. He's a lot more, longing for something more than all of that. And he's recognizes some parts of him aren't that good. And so kind of having a daughter means something to him in a way that he hadn't thought before, and it comes back later on in regards to what he's going to do with himself. So I thought, but I did think there were a lot of good jokes with it, especially when he's like, he's like, Pike, what if you get a puppy and then you almost sleep with it? And the look she gives him, and also the look that Pike gives him when she's like, how dare you have eyes for another woman?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Little part where all the women were drinking because they're like, what's her name? She was like, was it tough to get the veggies? No, no. How was your dad? Oh, hey, hey, Vac. Oh, hey, Vex. Can we talk? He tries to go. She tries to damn, what's her name again? Keelif. Keelif tries to go up and right the wrong of basically leave him at the altar in
Yeah.
season one. But he basically does what she did to him, and he started drinking, and then of course, Pike is like, why is everybody drinking? And he sees her, he's like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. There we got to mention, of course, that Vax kind of gets the fullness of his powers in this episode, right? And
Yes,
he
because he
kind of,
actually
yeah,
goes to the temple.
yeah, and he sort of really has his talk with the Mistress of Ravens, which was actually pretty cool. Like, she seems like she's an evil deity, but most people treat death gods like that, but she's not evil.
Yeah,
She's,
and that's what I was explaining to my friend who was watching it with me, because I was like, she's based off of Plasmisa, something like Plasmisa or whatever from the Pathfinder book, and she's actually a good god. So I said, I'm thinking that she's actually a good god. It's just she's deaf and dark and everything. You just immediately think she's evil when she's not.
well, she kind of serves the pattern of destiny, more or less.
Yeah,
And so I really like that, and Vax, because of his talk with Scanlan, really it goes on to accept and stop running away from his responsibilities. And it comes with some good perks, but like, he really sees his place with the Mistress of Ravens and what he's actually supposed to be doing. And I
yeah,
thought that was pretty, because Vax, he's growing up, he's growing into like the hero he really is meant to be, and
yes.
accepting destiny, and all of that was really cool. And then, of course, like the rest of it is really about the plan to catch Umbrasyl. This big. It's not even an elaborate trap. It's just they set a trap for him, and they're kind of ready to spring it. Which does lead us into the last episode, the Hope Devourer, where they spring the trap, and surprise, a big old dragon isn't that easy to catch. It sounds good. Sounds good. We got this elaborate trap, except he's got magic and everything, and we find out we as viewers, we know he's got magic, but they don't seem to know that he can do stuff like, I don't know, fucking turn invisible. So so a big old invisible dragon fighting against some half giants and Vox Machina, and
Is that his actual power, or was that from the vestige? I
oh
think that's from the
no,
vestige.
it's not a vestige. I think that as remember, dragons are high level mages also. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's one of his spells. So he says, or his spell like ability. So like he's invisible, and it turns into this really epic, badass encounter. Like, um, and it's hard to kind of go too deep into it, except there's a flying portion. And as I understand, I've read like some interviews about this. Do you know that whole flying portion was like, how scam? Because remember at the end of the last episode, and we didn't talk about this. Let's talk about this. Scanlan's big plan to deal with Umbrasyl. Only Scanlan, and it makes it will use Scanlan's hand to push himself and Vax up its butthole.
And the way it looked.
It's like he was at the vet, like at the vet getting an exam. Absolutely hilarious, but also you're right. The squishy inside, as they end up inside of Umbrasyl's gut or whatever, and they kind of use that like that special blade uh, to kind of to keep him in place. And of course, it doesn't work. But he takes to the sky, and there, all of that whole little sequence where he takes to the sky was really on the off the cuff reactions at the table where they were, they decided like, oh, Vax and Scanlan are inside the, that was off the cuff, right? But also Grog jumping up on him and them kind of following
Yeah.
after. And it leads to like, they end up in his lair and a big old fight um, that, everyone's power kind of gets laid out. Like before, because remember, Grog fell down and he was able to turn big, but he still sort of survived with Pike healing him. So can you imagine this encounter? The cleric uses up all her spells to keep him alive, right? He's not fully
Yeah.
alive, but so she's out of spells. She's out of spells for healing, and then it's just they've still got to keep going, and Vax really moves them to do that, and Scanlan goes on. God, there's so much more than that, but
Yeah. And the little underlining story is, of course, Scanlan wants to run. He does not want to fight the dragon because he's like, oh, this time, this isn't like, what's the guy, the other dragon, the blue dragon, who wasn't that strong. This is a true, fully grown adult dragon that could kill us if it really wanted to.
right,
And of course, him, Scanlan realizes if he really does want to be, if he truly wants to be a man who wants to be a part of his daughter's life, he has to quit running away from every problem that he has to deal with.
right.
And that starts with him being with his friends, because during that time they were getting fucked up. They
Oh
were
yeah,
basically like on their deathbed. But then Scanlan always coming in the clutch,
and before,
pulled
yeah.
out that.
Well, I was gonna say before we get to that, we got to remember that there was other things like, for instance, that Vax truly came into his power. His.
Yes.
So what? And I was like, oh shit, is he half celestial? Like he rolls out with wings, so he's
Yeah.
got his like celestial wings.
And those are, and to be honest, those wings are like, because at first I thought, okay, they just like maybe a part of the suit or something like that. But then he gets hit in the wings and they're bleeding. So I'm like, oh, those are part of him.
Yeah, he turns out he's sort of like half celestial. Everyone else is sort of doing the we even see Keela take on her fire form to fight the dragon. We see everyone doing the most.
Big? Yeah, Grog.
Yeah,
grows
Grog
big,
got big.
everybody.
Yeah, and fighting him. So everyone's doing the most that they can, and they're at the edge of their this at the end of everything they can do. And Scanlan's sort of out of. He's not. He's like, I don't believe in this fight, and he's sort of just kind of hiding and staying alive. And as you said, what did he do? He came through in the clutch, and could be because remember that vestige was his. It was stolen from him. He earned it, and it was stolen from him.
And one thing I do want to say, because I discussed it with you in the last episode, somebody better pick up that phone.
Why?
Remember what I told you? Remember what I told you? Him, Umbrasyl worrying about those vestiges is going to get him killed. I told you that, bro. I said it. I said, as I'm like, this is an ancient red dragon. He knows what he's talking about. Like, no, bro, what are you doing? Leave that stuff alone. No, we need these vestiges. And he's like, okay, whatever. Deal with that stuff. It's going to get you killed. And like, I was like, it's going to get him killed. You know, why are you worried? You're a dragon. Why are you worried about human weapons? And that's what happened. That's Scanlan pulled out that sword, and
my man
gets a potential in his eye.
He descended like Thor coming down from the heavens and stabbed that fucking eye. Just and just like didn't just stab him. Then he blew a hole out the other side of the dragon's head. I mean, to put it in perspective, he's a gnome.
Yes.
Gnomes are not known for doing anything like that.
No.
And he absolutely delivered the death blow. Was a complete badass. And remember, not everyone has gotten leveled up because of items or whatever.
Yeah.
But and he hadn't ever really used this thing, and he used it. It supposedly was kind of had a lame power, but whatever that lame power is, he used it. Just amazing. What an
Yes.
ending, and that I mean, and setting up for season 3, because we know
Oh yeah.
what did they say? 2 down, 3 to go.
Yep. And then we find out that the whole time what was her name? The priest
Yeah,
was a dragon in disguise. Well, she not always was a dragon, of course,
I think
but
that
wherever.
I think they took over. Like maybe she's been dead for a while, but they took over. But she's a
Yeah,
dragon that hates. I forget the older dragon.
Thordak.
Thor. She
Thordak.
hates Thordak and wants him to fail. And I was just like, hell yeah! Like, oh, dragon politics. What are we doing that for real? We doing the dragons disguising themselves as humans, playing around with human affairs. Let's go.
Yeah,
This
clearly, I won't say she's a good dragon, but I say she's neutral. Maybe neutral evil in the sense of she clearly has her own motives, but you can tell that when she disguises as humans, she probably has some type of connections with humans
yeah.
in a sense. So I'll say she's like a neutral evil, where you can actually work with her. Because I remember we talked about this. They're gonna need something to help that Thordak literally super Kamehameha a mountain. Those vestiges are not. I remember I told you those vestiges are not going to do anything to him.
It's
Literally
just gonna.
nothing.
Let's say, what as Debo said, what are you gonna do with that except make me mad?
Exactly. Man, the dude's super Kamehameha a mountain,
it,
and he wasn't even tired after that. No, man.
so we clearly we have a new dragon, unrelated to the Chroma Conclave that wants to get rid of them, and it's gonna use Vox Machina to make it happen. And I love that. Like
Yes.
these are some. I love that these are aspects of D&D that most people don't know about because they just don't know about the game. But that dragons are apex predators. They're not just apex predators. They're hyper intelligent, very
Oh yeah.
capable, and they have their own internal politics that humans get caught up in sometimes. And this is
Yep.
one of those times in Vox Machina. They're set against the Chroma Conclave. In fact, forget set against, the Chroma Conclave is coming for them. So they need all the help they can get. So
Yep.
you know what? Any other time I'd be like, how dare you stop in this season on such a cliffhanger? But I can't even be mad because this was awesome. Man, you remember what I said about the first 3 episodes versus what I'm saying now? Like, they ramped it up perfectly.
Oh yeah,
I,
yeah. This season ended ridiculous. Like I was not expecting it to end the way it ended. It ended ridiculously good. I'm
yeah.
really, really like surprisingly like I'm clapping like how well this season ended. It was so good. And let me just say this. Vox Machina was getting their asses kicked for those 3 episodes, man. They were getting their asses whipped. I
Yep.
mean,
But
man,
they
they
were.
were
But
getting
you know
whipped.
what? They stood in the pocket. That's
Oh,
all
yeah, they
that. That's
stood in it. Yep.
they stood in the pocket and they took their hits, but they made it happen. And just loved it. Scanlan remains my favorite character, but like everyone really kind of did it. The only person I think that probably didn't really do much in this, and I hate to say that, is just Percy, because he had most of his development last season. So,
Yeah.
but I was all around satisfied with this season, these episodes. So, anyway, I think those are all our thoughts on the finale of Vox Machina season 2. What did you guys think about these episodes? What did you think about the season? What did you think about what we had to say? Get down to the comment section. Let us know your thoughts. And of course, you can always hit us up. supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. All right, all you Fabricants and Fleshbags, thanks for joining us for this season of Vox Machina. Come back to the channel. We got plenty more reviews where that came from. Until then, I've been Molde Pupe, your resident fabricant and commentator extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by the anime expert, video game designer, and lover of all things superhero, my good friend Lottie. we'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.
Peace.